So welcome back to my channel. This is Gamer Dom and time for another Rambles of a Fool. So what are we going to be looking at this week? I hear you say, not another Q&A. Well, funny enough, we have got a new Q&A with the developers, this time from the Polish community, which is quite revealing, quite interesting. Look at some suggested changes to the Kharkov map. One of the many maps they're looking at revamping because it just doesn't give an even fight for all different varieties of tanks, and some of it I like, some of it I don't like at all. Also, we've got some insight into the Italian tanks. So the Italians are coming, we know. Probably not with patch 1.0, but maybe shortly after. So we'll be looking at the early super test stats for tiers 1 to 7, which is quite revealing, quite interesting. And also we finally have a date for when patch 1.0 comes into play. So anyway, lots more besides. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So we're starting to get a lot more detail on the Italian tech tree. Probably can't see this terribly well, but I'll show you the individual tanks that we know of in a minute or two. But what's really interesting is there are two tier 2 tanks. So you come out the Fiat 3000 here at tier 1, which is basically a Renault French tank, and then there's two options. This is M1441 and this L640 before you then head down this line. Now the rationale for that apparently is because they were just too numerous in terms of being used in the war not to feature them, which seems a slightly odd thing to do. I believe this one is a light tank, this one's a medium tank, so I can't imagine why people will play this one. But anyway, let's have a look at a little bit more detail on these that we're beginning release. So bear in mind, all these stats are subject to change. They're all being tested on the super test server right now, but it's interesting. We've not seen anything on the Polish tech tree apart from rumours and speculation, so it would tend to suggest that these genuinely the Italians are coming before the Poles. So this is the tier 1. It's basically a Renault. Nobody's going to play with it very much, but there you go. For safety, or for completeness, shall we say, is a Fiat 3000. Top speed of 21. Yeah, you're not going to be going anywhere fast in this thing, but that's your tier 2. So this is the first of the tier 2 tanks, something to be very familiar to those of us who've done a lot of research or looked into this, or interested in the Second World War, particularly the Desert War. This was a very widely used Italian medium tank. It's the M1441. Not a huge amount to say about this, particularly 30mm of frontal hull armor and pretty flat at that. 40 on the turret, 42 on the turret isn't too bad. View range of 300. Dispersion is 0.43, so pretty horrible. Aim time of 2 is not bad, and a load time of 2.6. Penetration 52, which actually is pretty good down at tier 2. I always think the measure is whether you can kill yourself easily. So 52 mils of penetration against 30 hull just shows how good this is. Its premium is 75, HE 20, 50 average damage, and it does 32. So yeah, not too bad at all. So this is the alternative one. This is the L640. So again, I don't really, well, the explanation is that they were just too numerous not to feature these within the tech tree. So yeah, it is what it is. But this is the tier 2 alternative tank. Weaker armor, 30, 15, 15, both on the hull and the turret. Better view range, 320. Penetration only has, looks like it only fires AP and AP, or whatever the premium round is. So it's oh, it's a machine gun. Okay, so it is 38 penetration, 11 damage, and fires 12 shells. Has a 12 shell autoloader. Okay, so it's an autoloading tier 2. 3.5, there you go, 3.5 seconds to reload the autoloader. Aim time of 1.7. Reload time between each shell is 0.25. Dispersion is horrible, 0.47. So it's going to be a light auto loading. Well, I guess it's going to be a light tank, I would guess. L6 would tend to suggest L for light, but we shall see. So down at tier 3, another familiar tank for those who look into the Second World War and interested in the Desert War, particularly M1542 at tier 3. Upgrade slightly on the armour, 45, 25, 25, 42, 25, 25 on the turret. Not really going to get anybody excited that, but a good view range, 320 down at tier 3 is not bad. Top speed of 40, which is actually very good. Don't know what the soft stats are like, we don't know what the acceleration will be like, but not bad at all. Guns okay as well, 70, 95 and 45 with 50 damage, 50 damage. So fast firing gun, 0.38 dispersion, aim time of 1.8, reload time of 2.2. So an interesting tier 3, but to be honest, you're not really going to be playing any of these lower tier ones very much. This is the tier 4. P2640. Reminder, all these stats are subject to change. These are just on the super test at the moment. A little bit of upgrade on armor, 50 40 40, 50 40 40 on the turret. 330 view range. Again, doesn't top speed is pretty good, 40 and 15 in reverse. Penetration of the gun is nice, down at tier 4, but then you're going to be up against tier 5s and no, you won't, just tier 5s, isn't it? It's the new matchmaking. So that's not bad. 97 millimeters of standard pen, 130 if you hit the skill round, and a very impressive 70 with an HE shell. Wow, wow, is that a misprint? Oh, that seems a lot. 110 average damage, and 175 if that penetration is correct with HE. Wow. 0.43 dispersion is pretty horrible, however, an aim time of 2.2 is really, and reload time of 4.2. So that's potentially a derp option there. Tier 5 is start getting a bit more interesting, and it's actually quite a good looking tank by the look of this. P43 it's called. Tier 5, hull armour is 80 50 50, turret 80 50 50, which is not bad, and it looks like there's a bit of angling. Can't really see what the lower plate's like from this, but looks like a Panther turret on that, really. View range is up to a very good 350, which is nice. Traverse speed is 48, which is very good, and turret is 44, so it's pretty nimble. And look at top speed, 42 and 18 in reverse. Penetration of the gun are very impressive, 118, very nice. And if you resort to the 2 button, 146. HE's back down to a normal level of 38, and 110 average damage. 0.41 dispersion is not so good. That's a shame, because that gun looks like it's a pretty good snipey gun, but maybe it's not going to play like that. Aim time of 2.4 and a reload time of 4.1. So interesting little vehicle. Tier 6 P43 BIS. Just looks like a slightly updated version 5, which I guess is what you'd expect. 80 50 50 on the hull, 80 50 50 on the turret. Turret traverse is slightly slower, 38 must be that extra armor. Hull traverse is still pretty good, 42, and view range is excellent, 360, very nice indeed. Top speed of 50 and 20 in reverse, so pretty darn nimble, and the gun's not bad, 140, 180 with the premium rounds and 45 with HE, but I guess you're going to be coming up against tier 8s, and 140 doesn't really cut it, but then you got that speed, so yeah, depending on what the acceleration is like, this could be quite good to flank some of those big heavy tier 8s that you're going to come up against. 240 average damage is not bad either. Tend to suggest the gun's around 90 mil, something like that. Dispersion is not so good, 0.4, an aim time of 2.4. It's odd, the dispersions on these are pretty poor, and yet the stats we saw for the tier 8 premium tank appear to be very, very accurate guns. So it's an odd thing. It's an odd thing that they've changed it that much within the tech tree. So this is the tier 7, which is the last one we've got any details on at the moment. We're still waiting for the 8, 9 and 10 to come through. They will be the ones with this new auto-loading system. So the tier 7 is the last one we have. Reasonable hit points 1100, hull is 150-50, turret 150-50, which is okay, and if that gun shield is spaced armor, that could be quite useful. Again, very good traverse speed is 40 42 degrees per second on the turret, 44 on the hull, and 380 view range. Very nice indeed. Could be a very good tier 7. I always think tier 7's a bit of a sweet spot because you don't see 10s, you only see 9s, and that's a lot better. 55 kph, 20 in reverse is also pretty good. Again, don't know what the ground resistance is, and we don't know what the acceleration figures are like, so you know, it's tempered a little bit. Penetration 152 with standard rounds, 197 with premium. Wow, that must be a misprint. 154 with HE. That must be 54. I can't believe it's got 154. If so, you're only going to be using HE. 240 average damage, apart from the HE, which is 320. Dispersion again is a little weak. 0.42 doesn't seem very good. Aim time of 2.5, so, and reload time of 8 seconds. So I'm surprised, as I said, I'm very surprised that these tanks have such poor dispersion. The premium we saw had a much better dispersion and would tend to suggest it was more of a sniping tank, and yet all the tech tree up to here have been pretty weak on their dispersion, and seem to be more of sort of speed merchants getting into positions to take on their targets and then relocating. So interesting, very interesting. But let me know what you think. I'm really interested to know whether you're interested in these Swedish tanks, whether these Italian tanks. I'm interested. I can't say they get me terribly excited, some of them, but you know, any kind of new nationality is kind of interesting to play, and I do like mobile mediums. Okay, so everyone's been wondering when the new update comes, so 1.0 release date, and apparently it is going to be on the Russian server the morning of Tuesday the 20th of March. So most likely EU and North America will be the day later, so the morning of the 21st of March. No idea, sorry Asia, as usual they never tell us anything about what's happening there, poor buggers. You probably get it in about 3 weeks time. That seems the way it happens over there. So reminder, you have to have used your Christmas rewards by then. So the girl crews and all the discounts on the tanks have to be claimed by then. Now with the crew, I think it's fairly obvious. You have to have taken them and put them on a tank somewhere, or at least, you know, they don't actually have to be sitting on a tank, but you have to have assigned them to a nation or tank, otherwise you lose them. With the discounts I'm not so sure, so does that mean you have to have put it on a tech tree tank but not actually used it? And I don't know the answer to that, I'm sorry. I would, if you can, use it and buy the tank, but for sure make sure that it's assigned to, the discounts are assigned to a tank in the tech tree before the update happens, because if you haven't done that then you will lose that as well. Now whether or not you can still use the discount after the patch, I just don't know. I'm sorry about that. I haven't been able to see anything that tells us what the answer on that. So anyway, 21st of March will be the date for 1.0 for the EU and North America. So get ready. HD is on its way. Okay, so we talked about this in another version of Rambles, these changes to the Kharkov map. Now, I can't make the little map any bigger, sorry. This is Wargaming's video, but you can see proposes to change all that open area that's up the north area, make it the same level as the town, and to give it much more defensible positions, a lot more bushes. There's some shell craters there, positions that are viable to have a bit of a scrap for mediums. And the main driver of that is that they feel that tanks with light or no armour really struggle on Kharkov, as they do on most city maps. But I kind of like the look of that. That's nice. Nice bit of open patch as well. If you're really ballsy with that tank with a lot of camo, you might be able to use it to take advantage of those, trying to show those craters. But you can see it's the same level, so there's no cliff anymore. They're also simplifying this middle area, so it used to be much more, I guess it's no real sort of lanes and corridors. It's I'm not sure I like that bit. I much rather the lines we've got at the moment for heavy tanks to call it out. As it is, there's some really narrow entry points. I'm not sure I like that. So you get in that middle area, you can be stuck in there while the rest of the game carries on without you. Look at the middle road is still fairly open, and out the square area is also been opened out a bit more cover. Well, there's a bit more cover, but it looks actually less. They've moved all those barriers further back. Wow, this just looks like a killing zone. Ooh, I don't like that at all. They were saying in the patch notes I was reading on this that they've made this more cover. Unless you've got a tank with really good gun depression and good turret, you're screwed over there by the look of it now. So there you go. Interesting. I mean, they're continuing to play with these maps and make them more playable, and you know, that's a good thing, right? Quite excited about the continuing development of maps. So is this another version they're looking at? No, it's just another view of this area out here. Now this is how it is currently, isn't it? Yeah, that's... Okay, so this is a secondary version. Sorry, I should have looked at this before. So, barriers there. Okay. But how do you get into that area now? So that's... Okay, so on this version you can't get into the central square. Right. Ha! Oh, okay. Not sure I like that either. This middle bit here with all the buildings still has very, very limited access points. And then you've got a big wide open thing. Oh dear. Yeah, not sure about that, boys. Back to the drawing board, I'd say. But I like the fact they've opened this area. It needs a lot more cover. It's too open. The middle area where all the buildings are, I think that was fine how it was. I don't really see why they needed to amend that particularly. It's great for heavy tanks and tanks with lots of TDs with lots of armour, but that central square, that's damaged. Let me know down below. So International Women's Day was yesterday, and to mark that occasion there's special missions happening between the 9th and the 12th of March. So, well, I say missions, you just have to play one game, don't have to win it. Just one game and you get a day of premium. So how's that for something free? So yeah, get on there, get on play, enjoy, get your day of premium. If you extend your premium if you already got it, and if you haven't been playing with premium, get your premium and then milk it for the day. Okay, so stand by your beds. Another exciting Q&A from this time from the Polish community manager. Isn't it fascinating how Wargaming run all these community discussions and insight into what they're doing? I think it's kind of good, although I still wonder sometimes how much information they're just kind of making up on the fly and how much is genuinely true. So obviously the Polish community were interested in what's happening with the Polish tech tree, given the fact we expected it really the end of last year. But they've said it should come out this year, but they're not going to give a date yet. But it won't just feature medium tanks, there'll be other branches. Now maybe that's what's holding it up, I don't know. But one thing is for sure, there will not be any artillery in the Polish line. There's an idea to change the Rudy. Now again, people might not realise it, but the tier 6 T-3485 Rudy tank, which is a Russian premium tank at the moment, was basically an adaptation, is a copy of a tank that appears in a Polish television series, 4 Men and a Dog. No, yeah, something like that. Four Men and a Dog, something like that. But it features 4 crew members who operated a tank in the Russian army who were Polish, and they had a dog in the tank as well, and that was the motivation for that premium. And somehow, some reasons, it sort of makes sense to switch to Polish, given the fact it's from a Polish series. However, it is a Russian tank, and people will have trained up crews on it. So I don't know. I can't honestly see them changing that over. More likely they will offer it up as a Polish version of the tank. So if you wanted a T-34-85 Rudy that's actually Polish, then you can probably buy it. That would, knowing what wargaming are like, that's probably what will happen. Balancing tanks takes place in a cycle that takes a few months. So basically, I think that people are trying to understand what process goes into decisions on whether to amend tanks that are in the game, and they're saying it's not just based on win rate, but you know, obviously that has a big bearing, but it's also looking at how people play the tank, that sort of thing. So it's not just this tank wins every game it plays or wins 70% of its games, although obviously if that happens then that's something they need to look at. Defender is coming back to the EU server. No, well, to be fair, they're saying it's possible the Defender will come back. So you remember just before Christmas, I think they announced that Defender wouldn't be sold over Christmas and wouldn't be sold anytime soon. Such as Wargaming, that they've obviously gone back a little bit on that and saying that it may possibly become available. Now every other server's had it. US had it just recently, Russia had it, Asia had it, and the reason why I didn't sell it again here was because of the negative feedback about the tank. So they decided not to sell it for the time being, but yeah, they'll eventually just want to milk us for a few more, and I think also it's making that exclusivity factor happen, so that when it does go up, everyone's just desperate to buy it, because it may be another 6 months before it's sold again. Calling me a cynic, but I work in marketing and I know how these things work. Japanese tank destroyers might come, but not anytime soon. Well, that'd be interesting. I like TDs, so good. There's planned to introduce new portraits, which will come with the new crew revisions that we talked about in the last edition of Rambles. There's plans to introduce a new Czech tank tree this year, but it's not set in stone. So that's interesting. I wonder whether that'll be lights or heavies. Probably lights would be my bet, but hey, we'll see. The Italian tech tree will most probably come before the Polish tech tree. Well, given the fact we've got stats for the Italians and we've got no stats on the Polish yet, I think that's very likely. Polish tech tree will look like the Czech tech tree in the number of tanks rather than the Japanese one. So I guess that means, I don't really know what they mean by that. I don't know. Anyone let me know down below. You shouldn't expect a Hungarian or any other tech tree in the near future because they're focusing on Italian and Polish. Well, that's fair enough. There's no plans to reduce the E5, the T110 E5's Commander's Hatch weak spot. This is an ongoing saga that was buffed at one point, made ridiculously strong, then they nerfed it a little bit. It's still very, very strong. So, hey. Somebody obviously tried to push the point about the Polish tech tree and said, would it come in or around the 11th of November, because that marks the 100 years of independence of Poland's celebration. So, and the answer is we will see ... So either nobody would realise that, but given this is a Polish contributor Q&A, I would imagine somebody did know that, but it would seem to be a good thing, and if they're doing this Italians first, then to bring it out sort of second half of the year, hang it on something like Polish independence, 100 years of independence, that would seem like a good idea to bring in the Polish tree. Again, as a marketeer, that would be my recommendation to their sales guys. Just, you know, send me my commission check anytime you like. New ranked season should appear faster than the current one. Anybody been playing that? I played a few. I mentioned it. I went out. I've been taking my Type 5 Heavy out because it just annoys everybody, and doing all right. I'm up to tier 4. I played quite a lot the first few days, and then I haven't played much. But to be absolutely honest, I'm winning pretty all my games, and I don't think it's because of me, because I'm only just Joe Average. I've just been very, very lucky. But the Type 5 is a very good one to get involved in those things, to my mind, because you're always doing damage. And now when I get to if I get to 5 or 6 rank, then I'm sure I'll come up with guys who really know how to pen a Type 5 Heavy. At the moment, I'm still fighting guys who don't really seem to know, so it's kind of fun. Not for them, of course. For now, the Polish tech tree will consist of one branch, and for now, because higher tier vehicles are the problem. So this is a common theme. So because they try, I mean, despite what everyone laughs about fake tanks and all that, Wargaming do try and keep some veneer, and it is a veneer of accuracy in the tech trees, so that they base them on real designs and real tanks. Now sometimes those designs are literally just paper designs, they were never prototypes, but at least there is a drawing. And the problem in some of these nations is, while they had quite a good tank building industry during the war years and just after, or just before the war years, they didn't really do anything afterwards, and particularly for somewhere like Poland, where they were occupied for a long time by the Soviet Union, and or at least part of the Soviet bloc for a long time, and they didn't really have the chance to do their own thing. So it's difficult for some of these nations that had really quite a advanced industry in and around the First and Second World War, well, mainly the Second World War, between the wars and through the Second World War. But all those tanks tend to be low-tier tanks. The nature of the tech trees are that the later ones are post-war tanks. Don't go up to modern, because that's World of Tanks sort of sweet spot is anything up to sort of just before the modern era, if you like, reactive armor and that sort of thing. They don't go that far. So it's quite tough with things like Polish or Hungarian or these things, because and other nations for that matter, who tended to buy in or were given loads of tanks from other nations, and we don't want to see just copies of everything. So high tiers are a problem. The T-55AM Merida, or early prototype, is unlikely to appear in the game, is too modern. So that's one of these new Russian super tanks that get very excited when they first were seen on the May Day parade. But that's what I'm saying, is they don't do modern tanks. This is about sort of post-war, and once it gets into the sort of era of reactive armor, missiles and that sort of thing, that they don't touch it. There's a hint about they found something you don't know about in the Polish tech tree. Well, we will see. What else we got here? There are plans for penalties on self-propelled guns who drown on purpose. Good. This happens far too often, and players should be banned, I think, for a period of time. Initially an hour, maybe then a day, then a week, and then forever. There is no excuse for drowning yourself. There's just none. It shouldn't just be self-propelled guns. It should be any time a tank at the end of the game, when they're losing, just goes off and drowns himself to basically stop the other team getting the damage. That's just not fair, and it shouldn't be allowed. There's a chance the next marathon will give players the opportunity to choose their prize, but that isn't set in stone yet. Well, that'd be interesting, I guess. Tanks with preferential matchmaking will probably receive a buff, and their matchmaking changed so they can face tier 10s. We talked about this last week. They're still struggling with this because there's all sorts of issues around legality of doing things like that, and if they do buff them, they will have to offer the owners of those tanks the opportunity to sell them at presumably cost price, because legally they'll be in all kinds of trouble if they've altered a tank that people have bought. And it'll be interesting to see what they can do, but they also got to be really careful, because you can imagine a KV-5, for instance, up increasing its armor considerably and increasing its penetration considerably. It could actually be completely overpowered. So we'll see. What else? Looking at this, there aren't any plans to introduce the Strava 81, so that's the Swedish Centurion without the Sabaton camouflage for now. There won't be adding any experience for blocking damage, so you block 5,000 damage but you do none, and you do any spotting, you don't regenerate anything at the moment in terms of XP, and that's going to remain the same, which kind of makes sense, because otherwise it just gets silly, really. The new tier 10 after the T10, So that was the change in the last patch where they moved the T10 and brought in the 257. So at the moment the T10 goes into a blank. We don't know what it's going to be. Also the same with the Object 430 version 2. But those will be brought in update or after update 1.0. So if you're interested in getting those tier 10s, just play the T10 and the Object 430 version 2 and you'll accumulate experience on those tanks, so when those new ones come in you'll be pretty much there to be able to buy them. Changes in the crew system will be more than cosmetic, so we talked about this in the last Rambles. Lots of changes suggested around the crew system. However, again, there are challenges because people have invested a lot of time and in some cases money in the crews they have, and if you're going to wipe that out overnight, you need to think that through long and hard if you're wargaming, or you're going to have an awful lot of pissed off players. So we'll see. The Polish map, the Studenckia map, will appear. I probably just I have just butchered that, let's be honest, I'm crap with names. Will appear after the introduction of 1.0. It seems like when 1.0 comes in, we are going to be devoid of an awful lot of maps, so get used to a very boring rotation because there's a lot coming, but it's going to take them a while, so yeah, be aware. There's a possibility to introduce a Soviet turreted tank destroyer branch, but there's no plans for now. Okay, it's inevitable there will be more Soviet tanks. That's where their audience are, their largest audience are, and they want to keep them happy by introducing Soviet tanks. So they'll be working on new designs for, I would imagine, mediums, heavies, tank destroyers, possibly even artillery. I have nothing to go on. I have no insight. That's just speculation on my part. No plans to introduce amphibious vehicles into World of Tanks, but maybe in the future. Well, yeah, fair enough. Polish tanks are supposed to... That'd be good, actually. If you introduce amphibious, you wouldn't be able to drown yourself, would you? So maybe they should make all tanks amphibious. How about that? Just a thought. Polish tanks are supposed to stand out with something special, just like the Americans have strong turrets, for example. So they will look... I guess that's probably where they're struggling with the Polish. What's the unique selling point? What's the difference? And it's tough to see it because the Swedish have obviously got something. The Italians look to have mobility and fast-firing guns. British are fast-firing, high-penetration, low-alpha guns. The Russians are big, derpy guns, but lack of accuracy. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. So, yeah, you need something. Bombs will not be coming to the premium store. Well, I don't believe that, frankly. But, hey, they're saying that here, so of course it's true. Because everything Wargaming say is always true. There's a possibility to compensate players in gold who own premium tanks with preferential matchmaking if they don't like the changes, but this isn't final yet. So basically they're trying to find what wriggle room they have to get out of doing something like that, reading between the lines. So some interesting updates, extending some of the stuff we knew from the last Q&A. So interesting there. I think nothing particularly earth-shattering, but interesting nonetheless. Let me know what you think. So this is great, although it did make me laugh, given the fact that the matchmaking screws you over as a platoon. They're actually running a promotional campaign here for a replay contest. Sorry, not promotional, a replay contest for platoon play. So it's been run by one of the contributors, Salty Jedi, and basically there is a chance to win 5 premium tanks. So Scorpion Gs, Patriots, and a Liberté. All you have to do is upload your best example of platoon gameplay, so working together in a platoon, to well, Salty Jedi's own replay site. You do it through this site. It will be open until the 13th of March. Just upload it. They're saying that not just only considering performance but also entertainment value, whatever that means. So they will draw or sort of look at all the replays and then decide. I think they're saying on the 14th of March the winners will get that. And how you decide if you've put it in a replay with you platooning up with somebody and one of you wins a Liberté, how do they decide who? Anyway, whatever. It's a freebie, so you know, if you've had a good game doing platooning, upload it to that site. Also send me the link because I would love to feature it on my channel as well. GamerDom foolep13@gmail.com, as always, for any good replays you want me to have a look at. Anyway, there you go. You can get to it through the World of Tanks website. So a quick reminder, if you're interested, on the EU server you've got a chance to vote for what is going to be top of the tree for April, so starting from the 1st of April, and it looks like they're all tier 10 light tanks. Just go on the World of Tanks website and there's the big vote now button, and guess what happens if you click on it? You get to vote. So as usual, basically the everything on that tech tree gets bonuses in terms of being cheaper to buy, and extra crew experience, and the top tree guys, if you're using the tier 10, you get some personal missions when you are driving that tank to win various other boosters. So let's have a look to see what we've got. Doing this live because I haven't done it yet. Well, here we go. So we've got the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, or the T100, or the Sheridan. Well, I'm going to be selfish because it's the only one that I have unlocked. No, I haven't unlocked. I'm on the tier 9, but I'm going to do that. There you go. That's my choice, but it looks like the LT will win because all the Uniscums use that one. But if you want to change that, then go and have a vote. So I hope you found that interesting and useful. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Let me know also what you think about it. I'm really always interested to the comments I get particularly around Rambles videos, about what people think, whether they're excited, whether they're put off, whether they don't like it. I think I'm always excited because I think wargaming do work. I mean, I'm excuse me, I'm definitely one of the more vocal critics of when they screw up or they do bad things, and there certainly is a certain degree of bias and imbalance in certain areas of the game. But what they do is they do there's a lot of do's there. They put a lot of effort into the game and a lot of planning, a lot of thought, to make it better and keep it entertaining, and that's a good thing, right? So, but let me know what you think, and in the meantime, enjoy your games, have fun, try not to take it too seriously, and I will see you again soon.